Well, and I guess just a brief, small background. I did grow up in Provo, Utah. Raised in an LDS family, and I have lineage back to Joseph Smith, like a lot of people do. So that's nothing out of the too ordinary here. My parents divorced when I was around 14, and I had two older brothers. Then my father remarried my best friend's mom, so I ended up with some stepsisters and a brother. And me and my stepsister married real brothers from Heber City. So I moved from Provo to Heber when I was 18 because I got married in the temple. And so I then had 3 boys with my husband, and I raised them in Heber. And being in Heber area, I really didn't know anyone through my whole adult life that had ever left the church. And I didn't know why anybody would leave the church. I had no intentions of it, didn't even think about it. And nobody ever said anything. And Heber's a pretty small town. It's growing, but it's pretty small. Anyway, so I later divorced in 2001. So I had been married 17 years. And my ex-husband was pretty controlling, pretty abusive that way. And I think it stems from the Mormon life. So I finally got out from under that. I was single for about 4 years, and I didn't go to church. I was pretty active in the Mormon church with my kids as I grew up. And then when I got divorced, I wanted nothing to do with it. So I didn't do anything, religiously speaking. With God, didn't really think about it. I just knew what I didn't want, but I didn't know what I wanted, if that makes sense. So then in 2004, I met a guy named Dale Street, and I'm married to him now. We got married in 2004, and we moved to Mapleton, Utah. And we didn't even discuss religion. We didn't, just didn't even go there. He has 2 boys, and I had my 3 boys. So we had 5 boys. So we all got along pretty well. It was great. Life was good, but we still, for about 3 years, we just didn't do anything, with our religion or with God, anything. So my father-in-law, who lived in St. George, had passed away in 2006, suddenly. And I think that's when things started getting different for me and my husband. So upon the death of my father-in-law, I was mad at God. I shook my fist at God, and I know how terrible that is. But that was a reality of what I did, because I was mad that he took my father-in-law, who I was really close with. So after he passed away, we decided we would move to St. George and sell everything in Utah County. And wow, I see God's plan in all this now, but I didn't at the time. So we got moved down in 2007, and the day we were moving in, my father passed away from leukemia. Now, my father was in the bishopric. He was, pretty active in the Mormon church, obviously. And I wasn't that close with him, but kind of close, But, he wanted me to go through the temple and blah, 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 and I just didn't want anything to do with that. But he passed away. So here we've got these 2 deaths we're kind of trying to still deal with and whatnot. So right after we got moved in June of 2007, my neighbor, who I had known her for a long time, her name was Kathy, and I asked her why she left the Mormon church, because I knew that she left the church, but I didn't know why. And she was pretty apprehensive to tell me, because she had lost all her friends when she left the church, and she was an older lady, an older friend of mine and my husband. And so she gave me a DVD, which was called Bible versus Book of Mormon. I'm sure you guys all know it well. So that was the first thing that I was ever exposed to. And I remember standing in my kitchen, because I was watching it on my computer, and the minute it was over, I looked at my husband and I said, I want nothing to do with that church ever again. So I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know why, and I believed everything in that video, which it is all true. But it was pointed out to me so well. So then I'm like, well, okay, so now what? Now what do I do? Where do you go from there? Luckily, I feel so blessed. My friend Kathy said, well, I go to this Calvary Chapel of St. George. You can come if you want. And I said, okay. So threw up my hands. I said, I'm going to go. I'm going to go one time. And I asked my husband if he wanted to go with me. And I said, you don't have to go because I think it's an individual thing. I think I want God in my life, and I think this is what I want to do, but I'm only giving it one chance. I had such an attitude. I mean, it's such a God thing, right? Because he certainly showed me from that very first time that we walked in the door to Calvary, from the minute it started to the minute it ended. I mean, my eyes were just as huge. I had never been to another church of any kind except LDS churches in my life. So I was pretty shocked, playing different music and stuff. But we were studying in Hebrews, and everything in the chapter was like, well, this is all against what I was believing. So, And so in through that, I certainly was like, wow, that was awesome. So 6 years later, we've been going ever since. And at that time, I felt like I needed to decide. I was holding the Book of Mormon and the Bible in my hands, and I said, you know what? I've got to decide which one of these I'm going to believe in, because now I've learned that they do contradict each other. So I've got to decide. So I threw one in the garbage, and obviously that was the Book of Mormon. I didn't really throw it in the garbage, but I threw it on a shelf and just thought, well, in case I ever need to refer to it, I'll just leave it on the shelf. So I then just continued in my search and walk with God. Thank God every day that he has showed me and my husband so many things. So in a nutshell, me and my husband were the first people that I ever knew of that left the church. So now my mother-in-law moved here. She has left. Her husband has left. My mom, my three children, my husband's kids are still very deep into the church. They've been on missions. They were on a mission when we left the church, so we emailed them to tell them. And so we've tried not to build a wedge. We try to keep a bridge there. But we've certainly learned a lot, and, nobody's perfect, but that's just kind of what it is in a nutshell, just a really quick nutshell. So basically for me, it was asking my friend Kathy to show me what, why she had left, and then what she showed me, and then it just, exploded from there. As far as learning and researching, and I've certainly just researched, but there are days that I just need to back away from even witnessing on some days, because even online on Facebook or whatever, you can do too much. I feel like I need more Bible, than all of that stuff. But there are days when I just feel like I need to pray for people too, so that are leaving the church, because we're still in St. George, Utah, and there's days and times that me and my husband just want to move, because it sometimes just gets too much. It's always on the news. It's here. It's there. You have to just turn it off and just get into the Word, because it just gets to be too much. But I don't know where I would even go. So we just stay here, and I feel like God has me here and my husband, and for a reason, and lots of my family are leaving, though. So thank God. So anyway, that's my story. Anything spectacular.
Wow, that is awesome, Cara. So how long, when you first left the church, how did your family respond? Were they upset at first, and then how did that work?
The only one I was really worried about, and this is really stupid, but was my stepmother, because, and my stepchildren, my husband's boys, and we still kind of walk a fine line right there with them. And there's a few aunts and uncles on my husband's side that we, kind of didn't go to a family reunion because all they talk about is the temple and blah, blah, blah. So we've had a few conversations, with some family members here and there, but my immediate family, like my children, my one son just got married in April, and he gave his life to Christ last Easter. He's 23, and then he just got married, and his new wife, she's from Beaver, Utah, but she doesn't have any Mormon background. She was baptized, but just went with her friends. None of her family was baptized, so she doesn't have all of that junk that I've got to extract. But she started coming to church with us at Calvary Chapel, and she gave her life to Christ on Mother's Day. So, and she has a little boy. Well, she has a boy, so my boy has a stepson. So now I'm a grandma, and it's just exciting to watch, other people find Christ, whether they were Mormon or not or whatever. It is so awesome. Because we've been in it 6 years, and sometimes I feel like I'm still a baby Christian. But, I still need to learn a lot of stories in the Bible. But I'm a Jesus freak and a Bible freak. I can't get enough of it. I go to many Bible studies, and I love it. I can't get enough of it, and I hope I'm that way clear till the day I die. So, and I think I will be, but, the enemy comes, so we have to be aware. So I hope that answers your question.
It did. I mean, that gives me so much hope, because all of my family are still, true believing Mormons, and, some of them won't even speak to me right now. So your story gives me so much hope that.
Yeah, and I mean, if I would have written my story 6 years ago, I'd have never written it like this. I mean, I would have never guessed in a million years I would have been going to a different church with my husband, going to Bible studies. We're in Bikers for Christ, and it's not really what we're doing. It's what God's doing through other people to us, with our Christian friends. And, you do need to surround yourself with strong Christian friends, because iron sharpens iron, but we still have our friends and family that are Mormons or other religions or whatever. And so we just love them and learn together and grow together. And people do get mad, and some people don't speak to us, and that is so sad. But, I've had cousins calling me because they see me on Facebook, and they're like, so, and they ask me questions, and I didn't even know anybody would even ask me questions, and now they left the church because they didn't know anybody either. So you never know who's going to come out of the woodwork. It can be somebody from high school. Facebook's full of all my high school friends, like everyone else. And people I used to live near up in Heber, I'm still friends with them. And I thought they were married in the temple and all that, and they're like, we want to know more about what you've done or why, and da-da-da. And they're listening, and they're asking questions as if they're going to leave because they're inactive right now. So there is hope. There is hope.
Wow, that is awesome. So you go to a Calvary Chapel church there in St. George?
Yes, and we have the most amazing pastor, Pastor Rick Nehrude, and we have online. Our church is online. It's live online. He has done since I was here 2 different lessons, teachings on the Mormon Church, and he called it Building Bridges, and there's one called Building Bridges 2, because he did it twice. And Jairus, who is now on this Facebook page, the Mormon, from Mormon to Christianity, his name's Jairus Gailey, and he left the church a couple of years ago. He's got an awesome story. I can't wait if he gets to tell. I'm sure he'll want to tell his story sometime on this conference call. It would be great. He is now a pastor. Well, they're mentoring him to be a pastor at our church, and he was in the bishopric when he left. He's got an awesome story. Talk about hope. I mean, wow. So there's a lot of ex-Mormons in our church, a lot. Our church grew from like 9 people, and we just added on. I can't even tell you how many's in it. I want to say a couple thousand people are in this church now, going to Calvary, and it's just...
So?
What was that?
Did you say there was only like 9 people 6 years ago, and now it's at a couple thousand?
It was 16 years ago. It was 16 years ago. It had 9 people in it, in this Calvary Chapel, and now it is just grown like insane, and it's so awesome. I love it that it's growing. That we just had to add to our building because we outgrew the sanctuary. I'm like, how does that happen in Utah, in St. George, Utah? But it is.
Well, it sounds like happening. A lot of Mormons in Utah are starting to leave then, right?
They are. I mean, I just count just in my own family, and I'm just amazed and wowed at God working through, people.
So
but it's certainly God.
How do you think that has happened with your family? Was it something that you shared with them, or just prayers, or did you have them watch the same video that you did? What do you think it might be? Yes.
Yes, I did share that video with many people, and I keep sharing it. And I've shared some other videos. I've certainly watched, the DNA and Bible versus Joseph Smith and lots of different, Facebook is one of them. Social networking is one of them, and just sharing. So, and through prayer, yes.